Welcome, friends. I'm going to share my thoughts and experience on the role and the reliability of Cuspal Sublords or the CSL in KP Astrology. Please take a good look at the title. It is about Cuspal Sublords in a natal or the birth chart and not in a horary chart. The Cuspal Sublord works amazingly well in horary. But let's look at the role and the reliability of the Cuspal Sublord in the natal or the birth chart. The Cuspal Sublord is used to analyze the yes or no kind of promise. So if the question is related to marriage, then the first thing we have to find out is whether the marriage is promised at all or not. And for that, the rule in KP is simple. The sublord of the seventh cusp, if it is signifying 2 or 7 or 11, then yes, marriage is promised. Similarly, for the multiple marriage, if seventh CSL is Mercury, or CSL is in a dual sign, or CSL is in the star of a planet occupying dual sign, then there is a promise for the second marriage. When you attend a typical KP class, so this is what is taught. These rules are taught. And then you become very excited about these rules, and these because these rules are simple. But when you start applying these rules, and then soon you realize that these rules are not necessarily are working in all the horoscopes, and you run across many horoscopes where these rules regarding the cuspal subrod or the promise shown by the cuspal subrod just doesn't work. So usually the culprit is the incorrect birth time. That is what you are told. Even if you have a very precise birth horoscope, and these days people have very precise birth date. But when the CSL doesn't work out, when the cuspal sublord is not showing the result as it should have been, then it is usually attributed to the incorrect birth time. And then from that point onward, then you make a departure to learning the BTR or the birth time rectification in the natal chart. That never works. The BTR in the natal chart never works. And BTR is also the main reason why one ends up with multiple version of his or her horoscope with adjusted time of birth. Let's take one example chart. Now this is the horoscope of a person, and please take a screenshot, especially the people who are more comfortable with the South Indian format of chart. So I put it over here. So you might want to take a note of this or make a screenshot, because in rest of the my discussion I'm going to use the North Indian format. And for all these charts and table of signification and all that, I have used this free KP Astrology and Astro Vastu software called KP Nox. I also did a review, kind of review of this software. I'm still exploring. This is a free software. If you want to, you can watch my video to get a little bit familiarized with this KP Nox. So otherwise, you can just go to their website and download the necessary files from there. So this is our example chart. Now let's apply the rule. The rule is, and we are looking for the marriage in this chart. Uh, Sublord of the seventh cup signifying 2 or 7 or 11. Yes, marriage is promised. And then there is a rule for the more than one marriage. Now I've taken the cusp chart over here, and let's look at the seventh cusp. So this is the seventh cusp, right? And if we look at the seventh sublord or the CSL, the cuspal sublord of the seventh, then this is Venus. Now we have to figure it out if Venus is a significator of 2 or 7 or 11. So now if you look at this table, the table of planets over here, you find that the star lord of Venus is Mars. So Venus is a significator of uh, the seventh house. Uh, and even if you look at house significators over here, then you find that Venus is also indicated as the significator of the seventh house. It's also indicated is also the significator of the seventh house. So marriage is promised in this chart. And additionally, if you look at the second rule for the multiple marriage, so you find that Venus is in a Gemini, in the sign Gemini, and in the Rashi chart also the Venus is in Gemini. So Venus is in Gemini, and that is a dual sign. So you would infer that this person should have no problem getting married, and then on top of it, you might as well think that this horoscope indicates multiple marriage. That means that there is a separation, because the second marriage cannot happen unless there is a separation leading to a divorce, or unless the spouse or the first wife, this is a male horoscope, or the first wife dies, and then only the second marriage is formed. So you are obviously going to offer these kind of result to this person. But the what are the actual thing? The actual thing is that this person is still not married, and he is more than 62 or 63 years of old, and he's pretty much given up on that, and so he's not married, uh, uh, and but if you look at the typical role of the CSL, and then you see that it's not very reliable. You could have easily inferred that he's going to get married, and not only one time, multiple times. Okay, so this is just one example of the reliability of the Cuspal Sublord. If you investigate uh, three or four or five horoscope where marriage has not taken place, the people who have remained unmarried for throughout the life or a long period of time, you will see that the CSL, the Cuspal Sublords, are not very reliable. I have a few more horoscopes of people who have not married or for their whole life, and but the Cuspal Sublord always indicates that there is the yoga for the marriage to be present. So then the real issue with the especially with the CSL in saying yes or no is that how do you find out whether a particular yoga is not promised? Mark my words. I am not saying that a particular yoga is promised, because a particular yoga is promised is what most of the time the Cuspal Sublord will show you. Will I get married? If you want to be 100% sure, or if you want to be very sure that this person is not going to get married, then you will find that the Cuspal Sublords are not very reliable. Will I go abroad? In most of the horoscope, or in all the horoscope that come across, you will find some connection to 3, 6, or 9, and then you are not sure that this person will never go abroad. Will I meet with an accident? The same thing. So let me repeat. When it comes to saying no, by depending on what the Cuspal Sublord is showing in a horoscope, this is a very unreliable kind of a thing if you depend on just on the Cuspal Sublord. Let me show you another example. This is again the South Indian format, so you might want to make a note of it. And then I have taken this chart from this book, Marriage, Married Life, and Children. Now let's look at this chart. And if you look at the seventh uh, cusp, if you look at the seventh cusp, you will find that it is the sublord is Rahu. And now in this chart, you can see that Rahu is with Venus over here. and Rahu is also in Taurus. So Rahu indicates Venus. So in this chart, Venus is indicating, you can see over here, Rahu indicates Venus, right? So Rahu is indicating the seventh house, and Rahu is also indicating the 11th house. No doubt, Rahu is placed in the sixth house, which is a bad house or a negative house for the marriage. But if you just follow the Cuspal Sublord rule, if the sublord of the seventh cusp is indicating 2 or 7 or 11, then the marriage is promised. So you can see that in this chart also the marriage is promised. Now let's look at actually what happened. This is like I mentioned that this chart is taken from this book, and if you look in this book, you will find uh, an article that says marriage denial grapes are sour. This article is actually written by Shri KSK. So this is very important for us to look at how to find out where the cuspal sublot can say no. This is what is the this is what we need to explore in this particular example. Now let's look at, I have put these notes on the right hand side. These are all from the book, from that book, and from that particular article, marriage denial, grapes are sour. Now what Krishnamurti says over here is when the seventh cusp sublord is deposited the constellation of the significator of 4, 6, and 10. See, normally, usually, we it is generally accepted these days that 1, 6, and 10, that's for the denial. But if you look here, then Shri KSK has mentioned 4, 6, and 10. Why 4th? Because it shows the denial of children. And but I don't know, later Shri KSK might have thought that people can still get married even if they have no uh, chance of getting any children. So that's the one thing that I want to point out. Second is that the let's look at the reasoning. We saw when we were analyzing this chart, we saw that the marriage is promised. Let's look at what how this chart has been analyzed to infer that this person will not get married. In this horoscope, the seventh cusp falls at this. It is in Venus sign, Mars star, and Rahu sub. We saw that it is in the Rahu sub. Rahu is deposited in the sixth house. It is in the constellation of Moon in the fourth. Rahu is occupying Venus sign. All these things are there. Okay. And then Shri KSK is showing that the sixth house result is stronger than seventh. Further, this is where I want to draw your attention. Further, Rahu is in the sub of Saturn in the 12th house. So now if you look at what has happened is that this particular signification of Rahu from here, from the then, and when we look at the what Rahu is signifying, and we look at the planet table, and we saw that Rahu was in Taurus, so it was indicating 7th and the 11th house. But what Shri KSK is saying is that Rahu is in the sub of Saturn in the 12th house. So where is this is what Shri KSK is saying. So what is happening is now that our focus is not just on the star lord. Now we have to set our focus on the sublord also. So this is one confusion. I do get a lot of few of these questions that whether we have to look at whether the sublord is a significator, or the star lord of the sublord is a significator, or the sublord of the star lord is the significator. So here you see that it is the signification had been taken at the sublord level. So this pretty much increases the scope of the seventh cuspal sublord. And whenever you increase the scope of the seventh cuspal sublord, then most of the time the answers are yes. So what I'm trying to say is there's a little bit of stretch of imagination over here. to infer that this person will not get married. Similarly, now Venus, Lord of Seven, is in the sub of Sun, is deposited in the constellation of Mars and sub of Saturn. So again, if you look at Venus, the Venus is from here we look at Venus sublord, which is Sun. Why we have taken Venus? Because Venus is Lord of Seventh, the house of marriage, and then it is deposited in the constellation of Mars and sub of in the sub of Sun, and Sun is deposited in the constellation of Mars. So from Sun again, you have to kind of go here and then look at Sun is in Mars and in the sub of Saturn. So this is I would say this is a far stressed out, and and if and this increases the scope of the Cuspal Sublord to too many houses, and it makes it so wide that I don't think it is easy for someone to stretch that kind of imagination and infer that the marriage is not going to take place in this horoscope. So the real issue, let me again repeat, the real issue with the reliability of the Cuspal Sublord is in saying no. Okay. Will I get married? No, you will not. Okay. This is the real challenge. This is the where the reliability of the Cuspal Sublord comes in. Will I go abroad? No, you can't. Will I meet with an accident? No, never. This kind of categorical answer, especially in the form of no, that is where the real test of the Cuspal Sublord is. And I have shown you two examples, including one from the Shri, which Shri KSK wrote. And these examples are not something that that would help to infer, especially about the no side of the things. Now, on top of it, I discuss about the scope of the Cuspal sublords, and now let's see how these Cuspal sublords keep on getting more and more signification. Here is one example from the this book, the Stellar Astrology, and in I guess in the current edition you will find this thing in page number 313. Now in this I have just taken a small introductory text from this article, overseas example. You can find this article in this book. It says that the mark where a particular cusp lies, what is its constellation and what is its sub. Further mark where whether in planet is posited in the constellation of the constellation Lord of the cusp. If so, take the planet as a significator. Similarly, mark who is the sublord of a particular cusp. You can read it. My idea about identifying this particular passage is that we have seen that in the on the planet side we need to stretch the whole scope of signification just to figure it out that whether a particular thing is not promised. Now on top of it we have to now take into consideration the constellation the star lord on the cusp side and the on this the cuspal sublord. So this dramatically increases the scope of the Cuspal Sublord, and with this kind of this wide scope, it is very difficult to say no to any question. If you come across any question in a birth horoscope, and you try to figure it out whether this thing will not happen, and if you have all these rules and this too wide scope of the Cuspal Sublord, your answer is always going to be yes, that this will happen. So what do we do now? This creates a lot of challenge, and and is there a way out where we can concise or um, make all these rules shorter and to the point. And so this is what I'm going to discuss in my next video, because this is a topic about the Cuspal sublord that needs some more discussion. And so I'm going to continue this in my next video, where we are going to particularly look at how Cuspal Sublord is capable of saying no. Can we have this kind of a confidence or not? So I'm going to upload the second part as soon as I get time. Thanks for watching.